Yeah, this is actually this was the chapter that they revealed that what the Isildur's Bane was to Faramir.
Yeah, yeah.
That must have been awkward.
Awkward. But it ends up like kind of saving the day in a weird way.
Yeah, in a weird
Because
way.
wasn't he gonna like? It almost seems like okay. Let's speculate. Because it's almost like
Okay.
he was almost ready to take him to. It's like they do this like quiz or interrogation at the beginning of this chapter,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it kind of seems like Frodo passes the interrogation. Like, okay, he's not such a bad guy.
Right.
He was like a friend of Boromir, even though Boromir died, and it's almost like Faramir's trying to play this gotcha. Like,
Yeah.
how would you think if I told you that Boromir was dead? And even Frodo kind of like ends up betraying the fact that like not everything was peachy keen between
Yeah, yeah,
him and
yeah.
Boromir, and that was
Well,
cool. Go ahead.
and this was a chapter that they said Aragorn, like, is bringing the sword that was broken. This is like where he kind of gave up Aragorn, told everybody what Aragorn, like who Aragorn was for the most part.
Yeah, and
And
he
that,
also suggests that Boromir believed that Aragorn was
yeah,
who he
yeah,
said he was.
yeah, yeah. So, and he's like, well, wait, that's because they weren't in direct competition yet. They don't
Right,
have to,
right, right.
but
But it almost seems like there's like Frodo passes this interrogation, and
yeah.
then Faramir turns around like, "Well, okay, so now I believe you. Now I'm going to take you to Minas Tirith." Do you remember
How
that?
do you like that?
I'm like, but whatever
Yes.
befell on the North March, you, Frodo, I doubt no longer. So he's like, "Oh, you're a good guy. I don't doubt you
You're a good
anymore.
guy.
If hard days have made me any judge of men's words and faces, then I may make a guess at halflings, though." And now he smiled. "There's something strange about you, Frodo, an elvish air, maybe, but more lies upon our words together than I thought at first. I should now take you back to Minas Tirith to answer there to Denethor, and 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 my life will justly be forfeit if I now choose a course that proves ill for my city. So I will now decide in haste what is to be
So it will
done."
not decide haste.
So I'm sorry. So I will not decide in haste what is to be done, yet we must move hence without more delay. So he's basically saying, like, I'm going to take you to Denethor so that
And,
I won't be blamed if I make a bad decision about
and
the fate
I,
of my city. So this is him like, I'm going to take you to Denethor, and this is him setting up like Denethor's disappointment, like you let the halflings go. So it's great, like to set up like why
right.
Denethor's extra pissed at, just like what you were saying.
But
He's
but
extra
but
pissed at.
but he did say, so I will not decide in haste what is to be done. So he's still the jury's still out.
But
He still does.
what I think he's
Yeah.
saying is I'm going to take you to Minas Tirith, and there I will decide what is to be done with you. Right?
No, I kind of
Said
get
he
that.
said, but more lies upon our words than I thought at first. I should now take you back to Minas
He
Tirith.
said I should, like it's like I should now. Like
Oh, I
it's not like I
should now
will.
take you back.
Yeah.
I thought he was saying, because sometimes people say that I should,
Yeah.
I should like to go down this road with you, or
Right. Right.
I should
No,
now
I think
take you
I
back to
should now
Minas
take
Tirith.
you back to Minas
Yeah, so
Tirith,
there,
and
Denethor, my life would be justly forfeit if now I choose a course that pilfers off. So
so basically say I will
he's not
not decide.
he hasn't decided,
No, no, he's
but
leaning towards Minas
he's
Tirith, but he's
leaning towards
still,
Minas Tirith.
yeah, but he's not. He hasn't decided yet.
But
You
even
know.
he like kind of telegraphs the punch right now, where he's like, Denethor would expect me to bring you to him, and
Right.
there, if this conversation is going the way it has been going, and we know it will go, it will become evident what Isildur's Bane is, and that Frodo has it, and that he has this mission, and
Yeah.
Denethor will stop him from doing his mission and take the ring and try to use it, just like Boromir.
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
Right.
But I still think that Faramir is like, look, regardless, we've still got to like go to the cave. We're like there. He's, you know,
Mm.
he hasn't decided what he's doing yet, and I don't get the
That's interesting, because I actually, right before we started recording, I read that differently. Like, I should now take you back to Minas Tirith. I
yeah,
thought that was like, I should do this, and therefore I'm going to do that, and I've decided
yeah.
to do that. And then I thought he just changed his mind. But if you read that should as to mean like he should do
I
that,
should do it.
but
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to do it. So yeah.
No, like I said, I always read that as like, I don't know what to do yet, so
Yeah,
we'll
okay.
figure this
Well,
out. And I still
it's
think that at this point, Faramir, I mean, obviously
yeah.
has more that he wants to talk because with Frodo about because when they're walking, he picked up on their conversation like just right after this little chat
Mhm,
next page, I
mhm.
think, where he's like,
Yeah.
um,
So
I broke
Frodo
it like I broke up our speech together, said Faramir, not only because time pressed, as Master Samwise would remind me, but also because we were drawing near to the matters that were better not debated openly before many
ah,
men. You
so he's
know,
having like a little aside, you know,
yeah,
kind of on the down low
yeah,
because he wanted to
and
talk more
then
about Isildur's Bane.
yeah, yeah, and I think that it was a good, it was good that he didn't do that because not to say that you can't trust his men, but
Right.
he I think more for himself than Frodo and Sam that he
Right.
he, he stopped because he didn't want to like no one wants to drop the dime on him or what or he doesn't want anybody saying he had these two hobbits that you know what I'm saying that they were talking about Isildur's Bane and getting back to
Right.
Denethor.
But I think the more that I think Faramir's kind of in a tricky situation here, and he's trying to be discreet, right? But the more he presses about Isildur's Bane, even in private, or maybe even especially in private, it's
Yeah,
going to raise Frodo's alarms. Like, oh, okay, here we go again. I'm alone with this guy,
yeah,
just like his brother Boromir, and he's going to just keep pressing and pestering me
yeah.
about this thing.
Where does he say that if it were placed before me, I would
Oh,
deny
right.
it?
No, he gets to that. What this thing is, I cannot guess, but some heirloom of power it must be, a fell weapon. If it were a thing that gave advantage in battle, I can well believe that Boromir the proud and fearless, often rash, ever anxious for victory of Minas Tirith, might well desire such a thing or be lured by it. But fear no more. I should not take this thing if it lay by the highway. Not were Minas Tirith falling in ruin, and I alone could save her, so using the weapon of the Dark Lord for her good and my glory. No, I do not wish for such triumphs, Frodo, son of Drogo.
Right.
Crazy. Quite a thing to
Yes,
say.
it is. But not knowing that it's literally like,
It's like right
right
there
there, right there.
until Sam gives the game away.
Yeah. Dumbass Sam.
And
But
then that's when they learn about his quality.
yeah. So that's when I think Faramir decided that okay, it's better out of our hands than in our hands
Yeah.
when Sam kind of gave it up,
It's
right?
just interesting because most people would be like, their first instinct is always, I gotta protect what's mine. I gotta protect the city. I gotta protect my family. I gotta
Yeah.
do whatever they can to protect. And I have that instinct as much as does anyone.
Right.
But in this case, and I think Faramir is foresighted enough to see it that in this case, doing the immediate thing, the easy thing, like taking the ring, would actually, in the long run, compromise the city and destroy the city and destroy the glory that he knew that the city was capable of. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I don't
if
know
you're
if you've read
short-sighted, you're like, oh shoot, great secret weapon, all
right.
powerful, I can just protect my city. But a far-sighted person would be like, well, that's the easy answer, but in the long run that's going to be a problem.
But you know what though? I mean, do you know people like this? Like I've
Oh yeah,
known
of course. I'm like this.
like
I'm like,
well no, no, no,
oh,
no.
the
Like
easy way out. No, just kidding.
no, but I honestly think that more people are like, "Oh, here's the I mean, our political system
Yeah.
in the is like, "Oh, this is like the easy way out. This like
Oh,
is the
absolutely. The short
temporary
term
solution."
fix, the yeah, kicking the can down the road,
Yeah,
or oh,
yeah,
what's the easy solution that could get us to the next election cycle or whatever.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
and then Boromir was probably that guy. It's like, "Oh, this will get us
This'll
like we
help
will
us.
worry about it." Yeah. And then Faramir was probably like again, like one of the that's probably why he was compared to Sam compared him to wizards right?
Because he was farsighted like Gandalf.
A
Could
little
see
bit,
the
yeah. He can
future.
kind of
Yeah.
see what like I refer to him as like people can see the dominoes and what the pattern's going to be, and then there's just people that just want to knock stuff down and just kind of not worry about what the pattern's going to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. So basically, this comes in the context of them first start talking about Galadriel,
Right, right.
and then this idea that people take peril into Lorien. So if Galadriel saw in Boromir's eyes like some kind of peril, then it was something that was in Boromir she saw through to his desire. What were you gonna say?
Well, okay, so here's something interesting too that again I picked up when I was reading it, right? Because you kind of everybody seems like they're having like a kumbaya and it's kind of nice and like
Mm.
but when Sam was like, "No, Boromir," and then he
Yeah.
stopped.
He's like,
And then, but then Faramir also like yes. Now, what would Boromir say? Like, basically, he
right.
seems very
Back
anxious.
back up a second, because he's
Yeah,
like, if you're a ship on a rock, you've drowned yourself like a hobbit in a river, but neither rock nor river would be to blame.
well,
Now and so he's like saying that basically Boromir drowned himself in in the
like,
river, and the river's not to blame, it's Boromir's to blame. So he
yeah,
messed
yeah,
up. He brought the problems with him to Galadriel,
yeah.
and he was about to make some wonderful point, forgetting the kind of diplomatic caution that he needed to abide by in this kind of sticky situation. He stopped and went red in the face, and like Faramir's like, yeah. Now Boromir, you would say, what would you
Yeah,
say?
yeah,
He took his peril with him. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So all of a sudden, it's kind of like he's. This does seem like very Boromir esque, like where he seems very anxious to like you know what would you say? He took his apparel with him, like basically, it's not desperate,
But
but
I also saw that as kind of a brother who knew Boromir, who probably would see some truth in that. Like, oh yeah, Boromir was that kind of guy who took his problems with him.
right, yeah, yeah, no, but like yes, yeah, like basically he seemed very anxious at that
Yes.
line to see
Hmm.
what would Boromir say, where it's almost like
Yeah, but
it
here's like Sam kind of stumbling over his words, trying to be diplomatic, saying,
yeah,
"Yes,
yeah,
sir, begging your pardon, and a fine man as your brother was, if I may say
right,
so."
right.
I thought that was
I,
hilarious.
he was a great guy. He
He's a
was a
great
great
guy,
guy.
but
Yeah, but yeah, and,
but you've been warm on the scent all along. Now I watched and listened to him from Rivendell all down the road, looking after my master, as you'll understand, and not meaning any harm to Boromir. And it's my opinion that in Lorien he first saw clearly what I guessed sooner, what he wanted. From the moment he first saw it, he wanted the enemy's ring.
dumbass.
Sam's like,
Like
Sam.
yeah,
Wow. There I
yeah,
go again.
yeah. I know.
That's
Well, you,
funny.
yeah, but
But it's
this
good. It actually saved the day.
it did save the day, but
Cleared the air.
yes, just barely. You know what I'm saying?
By the skin of
Just
his teeth,
yeah, right.
Sam
Like
saves the day
just
again. He
dumb luck,
he bumbled
dumb
into it.
luck.
He's like the bad news bears.
Yeah.
He like wins the game by sheer stupidity.
The Bad News Bears never won the game,
Oh,
dude. They
I don't
lost.
remember. No, but like, what's a TV show that where someone saves the day by messing up too much or something?
Yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah,
Forrest
yeah.
Gump or something.
Forrest Gump. Yeah, he kind
Yeah,
of Forrest Gumped his way through this thing.
Forrest Gumped his way through it.
Sam Gump.
He's so pathetic that he.
Sam Gumpy.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, but then Faramir shows his quality is the highest. So,
Yes. Yeah, I was very impressed. I was even almost
yes,
a little touched by
right.
how Faramir rose above it, and he reiterated, here it is in front of him, and he's like, "Not if I found it on the highway would I take it," I said. "Even if I
Yeah,
were such a man to desire such a thing, and even though I knew not clearly what this thing was when I spoke, still I should take those words as a vow and be held by
right.
them."
And you
Wow.
know what? Do you even know anything about the oaths of Middle Earth, dude?
Window in the West. I think is like a very deep chapter. And
Yeah.
even Tolkien himself, in a letter to his son Christopher, kind of complained about the not complained about it, but he said, I met this great new character. His name's Faramir, and he's going on and on about
Yeah.
the Rohirrim and the origins of the men of the West and Númenóreans. And if he goes on too much, I might have to consign all this stuff to the appendix, because he's just droning on and on about this high and lofty stuff, and he's getting away from the plot.
Right.
As if Tolkien's not even the one writing this story, and he just meets these characters and they go on, and Tolkien just has to kind of dutifully scribe.
He's like taking dictation.
He's taking dictation. He's like, would you please stop talking so I can move on with the story?
Shut up, Faramir. No wonder your dad doesn't like you.
Faramir would have remembered his father's need.
Anyway, we were just talking about how Faramir's kind of going on about all these lofty things.
Yes.
And I think a lot of that is just to show that he's a kind of a lofty, thoughtful person.
You're right.
Kind of selfless, blah, blah, blah. But before we jump into that, I just want to point one thing out. It's at the very end of the last chapter where they run into the Oliphant, and Damrod, one of the companions, is like, where, cried Damrod to his companion, may the Valar turn him aside.
Right.
Mumak. So basically they're like, oh shoot, there's this like giant Oliphant kind of stampeding out of control, and nothing can be done to turn him aside. And so he says, like, may the Valar turn him aside, which struck me when I read that as like one of the only instances of like a prayer or an appeal to the gods. I mean, in other places in Lord of the Rings, they talk about Elbereth, Gelthaniel, and so they talk about that particular deity. But here's like just a common man. And, and I don't want to get into the whole, it was Tolkien. Obviously, Tolkien was a Catholic, but is the Lord of the Rings an essentially a Catholic work? And some people say it's a pagan work. And I don't really want to get deep into that debate, but obviously Tolkien here made his characters appeal to the polytheistic gods that exist for the people in Lord of the Rings. And here's like kind of your common man doing the appeal to the gods, basically. It's just something that you don't see a lot. And it's just interesting that he did that. And I'm like, oh wow, he's like actually doing like a little prayer. He's like engaged in Gondorian religion.
Kinda. I kind of read that like
more of a throwaway line, like God damn, I can't find my socks. That kind of thing.
Maybe not so like, but like oh yeah, like Jesus take the wheel. You know what I'm talking about? something like that. Where it's like, oh geez, God help those poor saps.
Right, God help us, we're going down.
Yeah. Like, so I don't know if that was,
no, I don't. Like, again, I think it wasn't. It might just have been a turn of phrase. Nevertheless, he's saying the Valar collectively, like the gods or whatever, which struck me as odd. You don't see that a lot.
No, you don't. But I think this was a lot less, like a lot. I mean, again, I don't have a problem either way, but it seems like a little bit more of like something that someone would say, like, Jesus, these guys are like,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right. How these,
Well, I mean, when you're seeing a stampeding elephant, of course, you're going to be like,
run away.
The gods must be crazy. Okay.
Yes. But
But that led to kind of another moment a little bit later in the next chapter, the one we're talking about today, The Window on the West, where they're looking out of this window on the west. This is just another kind of a moment that struck me as somewhat religious, where they sat down to eat with Faramir and the hobbits. Yeah. Faramir and his men turned their faces west in a moment of silence, like a lot of people do when they say grace before they eat. So his men turned their faces west in a moment of silence. Faramir signed to Frodo and Sam that they should do likewise. So like we're basically saying grace. So we always do, he said, as they sat down, we look towards Numenor, that was, and beyond to Elvenhome, that is, and to that which is beyond Elvenhome, and will ever be. Have you no such custom at meat? So again, this almost like struck me as a little bit of a religious ritual, because what is beyond Elvenhome, it's again Valinor.
Yeah.
So he's like, again, kind of like this odd, almost ritualistic appeal to the gods to bless their meat or to bless their food. And again, it just struck me, those two together was like, oh, these Gondorian, are a hardy lot. They're out there scavenging in the wild, fighting Southrons, and like a lot of people who are, just the foot soldiers.
Right.
Because their lives are so hard, they tend to be a little bit more religious, I think, because they're like, oh, I could die at any moment.
Yes.
And I just recognize that, and I don't know if Tolkien did that deliberately, but I just recognize that as like, that just seems kind of like the hardy, like foot soldiers, the kind of lowly grunts who are out there on the front lines,
but
paying their religious devotions or whatever.
But again, I don't know if like again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but it could be that was the custom, and it's always been the custom, and that's because they're so accustomed to customs. You know what I'm saying?
They are accustomed to their custom. Yes.
But it's just that's what they do. Because again, Frodo said, "I'm feeling strangely rustic and untutored." Right.
Right.
So it's like just something like that. Maybe I'm sure that it's religious, like in origin. Right?
In origin, right? As would be like when the guy saw the elephant and he's like, "Oh, may the Valar turn him aside." It could just be a figure of speech, but it might have its origin in a religious system. But now it just becomes kind of rote.